There are two great forces of human nature, self-interest and caring for others, and people are most successful when they are driven by a hybrid engine of the two. If takers are selfish and failed givers are selfish, successful givers are otherish. They care about benefiting others, but they also have ambitious goals for advancing their own best interests. So that was a quote from Adam Grant's book, Give and Take, and with me today to discuss is Matt Meerks. So Matt, welcome.
Hey.
Tell the folks a bit about yourself.
Glad to be here. Thanks. So I own, with my business partner, a marketing agency. We're up in North Georgia, so we work in more rural areas. We're a full-service agency, and this is definitely one of my favorite books.
Awesome. Yeah. People say about a lot of Adam Grant's books. Like, this is one of my favorites. Always teases to be one of his. So, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, well, this is truly one of my top ones.
Okay. All right. So why? Tell me why this is one of your top books.
Yeah.
What is it that impacts you so much?
So it's really interesting. I actually watched the TED Talk he did first. And that's how
I just watched that today, actually, to kind of get me back up to speed. So, yeah.
Don't worry. I did too the other day, just to make sure I refreshed. But I actually saw the TED Talk first, and I was like, oh, this is a really interesting concept. And then I listened to, like an abbreviated, I think it was on Blinkist version of it. Mm-hmm. And then I bought the book and read the book. And then I ended up meeting one of his research students, actually, and worked with her for a while. So it was really cool because she was working on a project that had him involved. And, so I got really into it. But one of the reasons I love it is it actually shifted the way we hire. And the way that we onboard clients and that we vet them. Because I look for the three big ones, right? I'm looking, are these people givers, are they matchers, or are they takers? Because those are the things he kind of outlines, that those are the three buckets people fall in. So we try and kind of scope people out with that so that we understand, okay, well, we want to avoid the takers.
Yep.
We're okay with matchers because we do our job. So if that's how they...
So explain what a matcher is for anyone that hasn't read the book.
Sure, yeah. So breaking it down, so givers are obviously the people who are very open, right? They're willing to help people out, sometimes to their detriment. Like they'll help somebody else accomplish their project without accomplishing their own work. I have some of those on my staff. And then your matchers are people who it's kind of tit for tat. Right? If you give me this, then I'll do this. If you don't do this, then I'm not going to do this. And that's, according to Adam and his research, that's the majority of the world's population. So they match. So those are pretty easy people to work with because if you do what you're supposed to do, then they're going to, match you. And then the takers are the ones you have to really watch out for because these are the selfish people who they're just looking to extract value. They don't ever put value back into a team, to an organization. They're just looking to climb to the top to get what they want. And so
we'll link that TED Talk in the notes.
Yeah.
The TED Talk, the way he goes through it is interesting. He talks about how givers are generally the worst performers.
Right.
I think, oh my gosh, what does this mean? Takers are the best, but it turns out takers and matchers are kind of in the middle.
Yep.
But then the best performers are also givers.
Yep.
So givers, like you said, if they give everything away and don't do anything, they end up at the bottom. But really, if they give it away properly but still take care of themselves, they tend to be the best performing people out there. So
I love one of his quotes is, find the way to give the best that you have, but not to say yes to everything, right? So it's like the 5-minute favors. So, hey, can you make a quick introduction? Can you take a quick look at this proposal? Whatever. That we're not spending hours and hours and hours, but a lot of times the top performers in givers, they're actually doing relatively small things and they're in a niche. They're very good at this thing. They're not just saying yes to, hey, can you walk my dog every Thursday? If that's not their specialty or their schedule. And that's something even I've struggled with. And I love the way he breaks it down into TED Talk too, where he kind of does the 4-square grid. And he's like, there's the agreeable giver, the disagreeable giver, and then you have the agreeable taker, which is the most scary because they seem friendly and nice, but they still want to rob you blind, so to speak. And then you have the disagreeable taker, and those are easy to spot, right? I mean, they're harsh and they come off wrong the right away, so you can kind of go, I don't want to deal with you. And it was really interesting. I thought at first I was a matcher when I started, really researching and digging into it. And I found that I'm really more of a disagreeable giver.
Okay. All right. Nice.
Because I won't just say yes, I'll challenge it. A lot of people being in what I do, I'm sure you deal with this too in marketing. People will be like, hey, can you can you just take a look at my website? Or, could you just,
Right.
it's just a little nonprofit. Can you just take a look at our ads and just see what we're doing? They don't really want to pay. They don't really want to invest, or they don't have the resources, which is fine. But I'm going to immediately challenge, not just say, yes. I'm going to say, well, why are you doing that? Why is this project what you're on? I'm going to immediately start pushing back, not because I don't want to help, but I'm not just going to say yes. I have a bit of a disagreeable side to try and get to the truth and figure out what they need to do. So the book helped me unpack that. I found that really interesting.
I think based on that, I think I'm more of an agreeable giver, where I'll say yes, perhaps too often.
Okay.
You want me to look at it? Sure. I'll pick my brain. Let's go.
Right.
And as time has gone on, as my kids have gotten older and our staff has grown, I have more free time, so I'm able to do that. But especially 10 years ago when I had younger kids and a smaller team, like that was problematic.
Right.
I think it's still problematic, but yeah. One thing I've been good about, I think, is giving things away. So you mentioned like giving away resources and stuff, but not saying yes to everything. And they have a quote in the book talking about David Hornick. He said, in an attempt to prove it, Hornick has broken two of the most sacred rules in the venture business. In 2004, he became the first venture capitalist to start a blog. Venture capital was a black box, so Hornick invited entrepreneurs inside. He began to share information openly online, helping entrepreneurs to improve their pitches by gaining a deep understanding of how venture capitalists think. Hornick's partners and his firm's general counsel discouraged him from doing it. Why would he want to give away trade secrets?
Yeah.
And so, but again, I think it's worked out fabulously for him, and I'll try to do the same. And I know you do too. I see a lot of the content you post online. You give away a lot of the secrets, as it were, but then you become seen more as an expert as a result. So it's a fine line between giving it all away, but giving away enough to it's like, oh, this Matt guy knows what he's talking about.
Right.
So I need to go talk to him further, and it can be a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. Some people ask, I do a lot of stuff with like local chambers, especially smaller chambers who don't get a lot of like experts coming into them, right? Because they're too small. There's only 15 people showing up in a room. And so it's hard to get somebody out of a Google or a big agency to show up. So I do a lot of that stuff, and people have challenged me in the past, like, well, why would you do this? How much business do you get out of it? I'm like, that's not really the point. I'm trying to provide genuine value, and 9 times out of 10, either someone comes up to me at the end and does want something, or that person's up connecting me with somebody. Right. And I don't do it for that reason. I do it because I genuinely enjoy teaching what I know and what I'm passionate about.
And I would say I do similar, but I think a lot of what I get is I learn more from it. Even if I'm, quote, the smartest person about whatever topic, there's going to be people that ask a weird question I hadn't thought of before, have a weird experience, and like, oh, I never thought of it that way. And it sort of makes me that much better for next time, which is better for everyone I interact with after that point. So it's, it's a win all the way around. But talking about chambers, though, that's another thing you got to be careful and not say yes, because like I know our chamber here in Cobb County, they have like 3 events every day.
Right.
Like I could just do that all day and never do any work, which would be the loser giver or whatever the bottom one is.
Exactly.
So wouldn't do well.
Yeah, that's definitely a challenge that you have to monitor and be well. But that's something me and my business partner talk a lot about. Is the best way to learn is to teach. So we'll try and put it on our team when we're trying to get somebody to learn a new skill or whatever. Is okay. Well, here's the course. We'll pay for whatever. But you've got to teach somebody else in the team or the whole team this concept.
Nice.
So they have to regurgitate it. Something we've started doing, and that's been very helpful.
We've done that with our meetup a few times too. We're like, we need to learn this topic, and so let's teach it next month at our meetup, which means we need to prepare a lot and read a lot and learn, and
test it.
Forces us to learn so we can teach it. Yeah. So
and then those questions are great. I love the engagement because I always find somebody who's like, I can't click that button. And I'm like, yeah, you can. I go look at their screen. I'm like, oh my God, you don't have that button. Why does that not exist on your account?
Right. Yep.
Why does Facebook not let you do that or whatever? It's like, okay, whatever. So yeah.
So listening was a big part of what he talked about in here too. And there were a couple good quotes. The first one is about talking more makes you feel like you've listened. He said, quote, logically, learning about the people around you should depend on listening. The less you talk, the more you should discover about the group. But Pennebaker found the opposite. The more you talk, the more you think you've learned about the group. By talking like a taker and dominating the conversation, you believe you've actually come to know the people around you, even though they barely spoke. In opening up, James Pennebaker muses his quote, most of us find that communicating our thoughts is a supremely enjoyable learning experience. So, which is of course totally backwards,
It
but
is.
it's interesting. So I've tried to remember that, like with clients and with leads and stuff. If I let them talk, they're going to go away thinking, "Wow, that Mickey guy really gets me." Even though I didn't necessarily say much,
Right.
it can be a good thing.
Yes. Yeah. I've had my grandfather used to teach me that the best way to win somebody over is to make them think it was their idea. And
Right.
he said
Yeah,
that was
for
one of
sure.
the key things was to always let the person talk and digest, and then you just kind of spin it back to them politely. And they're like, yeah,
Yep.
and you're like, that is a great idea. We should do that. Because it's true. You listen, and good salespeople, good consultants, whatever, just good communicators in general. You should spend more time listening. I had a mentor a long time ago tell me, he's like, you've got 2 ears and one mouth, so you should listen twice as much as you speak.
I like that. Yeah.
There's a reason. There's some math there.
And he had, and Adam had some good data to support that listening can help. There's a quote here. So he said, quote, Neil Rackham spent 9 years studying expert and average negotiators. He identified expert negotiators as those who were rated as highly effective by both sides and had a strong track record of success with few failures. He recorded more than 100 negotiations and combed through them to see how the experts differed from the average negotiators. The expert negotiators spent more time trying to understand the other side's perspective. Questions made up 21% of the experts' comments, but less than 10% of the average negotiators' comments. So the expert negotiators spent asked twice as many questions as the normal ones, as the average ones.
Right.
Which is, it's a huge difference. You hear 10 to 21%, but that's double. That's twice as many questions they're asking as experts versus the average ones are probably being more telling them what they need versus asking questions and listening, which is, again, tough to do sometimes. We've seen it. You just talked about that. People that want to pick your brain. It's easy to say, I've seen this before, I have the answer, let me just talk to you for 20 minutes and get it over with. But they're not going to think you really heard them and understood their problem unless you take the time to sit and listen.
Exactly.
And, ask questions.
Well, and even on the, for what we do for a living on the marketing side, a lot of brands end up being in positions where they just talk. They're just blasting information. They don't engage in conversation with their customer or their user.
Yep.
And even that makes a huge difference, right? It's like you as a brand need to be a giver, not a taker. You're not just looking to get a sale out of somebody. You need to provide value. And so when we can get a client to really shift and understand that, it makes a massive difference. Their social media changes, the way we post, what we post, how we do emails, and the engagement builds so much more of an authentic connection between, the brand and the user.
Right. Yeah. Blast is an interesting word. We hear a client say, I want to send out some email blasts. I'm like, they may not mean it that way, but that's not what we want. We want to send email blasts.
Right.
We want to send newsletters and start conversation and share knowledge and
Yeah.
not just blast people. And they usually say, that's what I meant. But so I think it's more just a word that's used. But blast is a good way to put it because that's what companies want to do. Like you said, on social media, I think even more so.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
You want to turn it into a conversation versus just, here's our latest thing. Here's another latest thing. Here's another latest thing.
Right.
Like,
Buy.
I'm not going to follow that.
That's what everybody else is saying too. So you're just feeding to the noise.
Right.
One of the other
you don't
things
stand out
that
well.
I found really interesting in the book that I have dealt with is that you have to protect givers from burnout. So like, again, I have some agreeable givers on my team who will just say yes. Right. And from a business side, it can be challenging because all those hours don't make it in as billables.
Right.
They just kept saying yes and yes. Oh yeah, sure we can. Oh yeah, I can get you that. I can get you that. And I'm like, that is not in the scope
creep.
of the project or our retainer.
Actually, the way I've heard it is not scope creep. Scope creep is like when clients ask for more. What I think we run into trouble is scope C.
Yeah.
When we're giving away extra scope to the client with our ideas, which can be good to a degree. It builds some trust. But if you keep doing it, it's all free stuff you're giving away, and these people want to be paid too, so you got to make some money.
Exactly.
somewhere.
And so, a big thing I actually heard from one of my clients is like, I always want to do what's right by the client, even if it costs me money. Like that's okay because I just think that works in the long term.
Agreed. For sure.
That's how I want to be treated. So I try and communicate that too. But for setting up systems and boundaries to protect those givers on your team from burning out, that they get so overwhelmed in tasks. So like I try and sit down. I've not been super good about this, but I've been trying to sit down more with my team and go through our project management system, right? And just say, what's on your to-do list? So that I can spot the things that I'm like, wait, why are we still doing that? Like, that's not a thing we get paid to do, or why are you handling that? That's really so-and-so's job. And it always comes down to, well, I mean, it was just a little thing, and then it kind of morphed into this thing, and I don't want to let
Yep.
them down. I'm like, okay, well, that's fine, but let's have a conversation with the client and figure out, how to fix this.
Yep. Yeah, I think for us too, it's helped. We have at least a couple of people on our team, our project manager among others, that is good about reaching out to us and saying, hey, this other person on the team is getting overwhelmed with work. Like, I want to let you know so you can step in and help. Like, because we don't often see that. I mean, she's running all the projects. We're out doing podcasts and
Right.
stuff. So we don't necessarily always see that. So it's nice to have the team looking out for each other and say, hey, I'm letting you know this other person's maybe getting a little overwhelmed. You may want to look at shifting some things around or doing something to help them before they get burned out. And having people like that on the team is just awesome.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
they
something
look out for each other like
we
that.
need to implement better. Our team has gotten so big, it's like I can't track everybody, in a
Right.
good way, not
Yep.
micromanager, but I can't
Right.
keep
No, I know
up
what
with
you mean. Yeah.
with everything. So it would be, we just hired a project manager, gosh, 2-3 months ago,
Gotcha.
to try
Nice.
and come in and help take that burden.
Yeah.
Because it's like,
And we meet with our team. We meet with our team individually every quarter, but that's often not enough. Even if they'd be overwhelmed for 2 or 3 months before we had a chance to talk
Yeah,
to
they're
them. So yeah,
burnt
I don't want.
already.
Yeah, it's too late then. So it's great to have that.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah.
One more area I wanted to hit, and then I'll let you kind of wrap up whatever you have, is about seeking advice. I thought that was a good one, where they say from the book, quote, takers may fear that seeking advice might make them look weak, dependent, or incompetent. They're wrong. Research shows that people who regularly seek advice and help from knowledgeable colleagues are actually rated more favorably by supervisors than those who never seek advice and help.
Yeah.
Then related was another quote that said, the fear of being judged as weak or naive prevents many people from operating like givers at work. We encourage our team to seek advice and ask questions. And I mean, a couple of people on the team, Robert and Cammie, come to mind from our team. They're always asking questions, and that's fantastic. They almost feel like they're being a burden. I'm like, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
I mean, asking questions is fantastic for all of us, and I encourage the whole team to keep it going, because I'm glad that they're not afraid to do it, and I don't think anyone on our team is, but I can sort of see it, though, where you'd feel like, I shouldn't ask that question because they might think I'm dumb because I don't know the answer,
Right.
but I'd rather that than mess something up.
Right. Well, I mean, I spent years in corporate, right? I worked for Verizon,
Mm-hmm.
some different organizations many, many decades ago, it feels like, that it absolutely was. I mean, you asked a dumb question, and culturally, like, you'd see half the people in the room go, "Ugh,"
Yeah,
and
those
so
are good.
you create that environment. But in our team, as well as yours, we tell people on the onboarding process a few things. We say, one, that you don't want to hoard knowledge, share it. So if you learn something interesting, you learn something new, blast it in the team chat,
Yep.
and then there are no dumb questions, but the one not asked. That
Yep,
we
I
tell
like
them
that.
right up front that if you're asking questions, that actually brings us great relief. If you're just going, that scares us.
Gotcha.
That
Yep.
scares us deeply, because either you're not actually understanding, or you're not listening. One of the two,
Right.
because nobody gets it all. Like, that's just
Right.
not, just on communication style alone, nobody's an excellent communicator all the time. So people have to ask questions. So we try and reinforce that. And then something else we try and tell our team to help kind of drive that point home is, when we're hiring them, we tell them, you're going to make mistakes and they're going to cost us money. We already know that. So just don't hide them. Like, that's
Gotcha.
the only
I like
reason
that.
we would
Okay.
get upset, is if you hide them. If you come to me
Right.
and go, Matt, I screwed up. This billboard's wrong. I messed this ad up. We overspent, whatever. We'll pay the money and fix it. That's fine. Don't hide
Yeah.
it. That I have
Yeah.
a problem with. But you're going to make mistakes. I already know that. So you have to foster an environment within your team, to your point, that asking questions is a good thing. Being a giver is a good thing. It's not punished, and it's also protected. That it's not taken advantage of. That you don't have somebody on the team, extracting value out of one person, draining them.
Right. I love the mistakes thing costing you money. I think it was Ogilvy. I can't remember who said it, but someone had made a huge mistake and cost the company thousands of dollars. And he was asked, like, aren't you going to fire him? He's like, what are you talking about? I just spent thousands of dollars training him on how not to make that mistake again. Like,
Not
yeah.
fire.
So, yeah. Now, if it's malicious, that's different. But if someone makes a mistake,
Agreed.
they learned a bunch, and they're going to be the least likely person to make that mistake again. So
Right.
that's fantastic.
Yeah. So it's like we understand that going in. And one of the other quotes that, I don't know if it's in the book, I don't remember, but I know it's in his TED Talk. He talks about, people are worried about getting the right people on the bus right? That's the old saying of, do you have the right people on the bus or in the right seat? And he said, really, you should be focused on keeping the wrong people off the bus. That's that's actually where your energy is, because generally speaking, again, the majority of the population is going to be matchers. So they make fine teammates. As long as everybody's playing on an even field and doing what they're supposed to do, matchers are going to be fine. Givers are going to be okay. You have to protect them. It's really focusing your attention on, do I have a sneaky taker, and do I let them in the environment? And so that's something, like I said, this book really shifted the way I look at hiring, and company culture is really important to us, the team dynamic. So we spend a lot of time vetting somebody. Like in the interview process, we actually will have somebody come in and spend a day shadowing before we offer them the job, because I want feedback from the entire team on, what do you think? Are they weird? Are they cool? Did you have good conversation? Do you notice any weird tics? Like what's up? Because I don't want to introduce a rogue element if I can help it.
Yep, no, that's for sure. I think we'll kind of end it there. I like one more quote from the book that kind of ties into that. He says, quote, as Samuel Johnson purportedly wrote, the true measure of a man is how he treats someone who can do him absolutely no good. And so if finding people that are super polite to the janitor, to the waitress of the restaurant, all that kind of stuff, it tells you a lot. And it's hard to see that right away. I would hope if you go out to a restaurant with an interviewee, they're going to be nice no matter what.
Right.
But they may expose themselves easily. But yeah, just being how you treat people that can't help you is kind of the key here, as we sort of talked about, answering questions and helping folks out. And yeah, so fantastic book.
Yes.
Your favorite.
Oh, it is.
And I'll say anything by Adam Grant is a must read. He doesn't write that many books, but he certainly turns them out. But they're fantastic, and so I encourage everyone to check it out. And again, we'll put that TED Talk. It's like a 14-minute TED Talk, so it's pretty short.
It's very reasonable.
That'll be in the show notes. So hit the show notes.
And he's a great speaker. It's very engaging.
Yeah, he is.
It's not dull by any stretch.
Oh yeah, his podcast is fantastic. I'll listen to anything he has to say. So yeah, it's all good stuff. So, Matt, I appreciate your time today. Tell folks where they can find more about you.
Yep, you can find us at squareframemedia.com. We're on Facebook as well, but we're one of the sad little agencies that we're so busy with everybody else's stuff we don't post on social media.
That'd be the typical agency. So yes, there you go.
We have a website.
Awesome.
Don't judge us too harshly.
There you go. Appreciate it. Talk to you soon.
Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
See ya.